I do believe that technology and now AI is like the new fluency, it's like the new English.
But if you yourself want to get stronger, there's no shortcut.
So that's what we do at JetLearn. Inspire kids and teenagers to start seeing technology as a force for good.
If your skill level is strong and you work on increasing it, AI will be a force multiplier for you.
So I think firstly, it starts with a fundamental belief in us, in our company and in me, that every child is different. Every child's potential is different.
It's actually achievement that leads to motivation. So you want to find a platform or find some resource that can give you small wins, clear feedback.
Yes. So thank you so much to both of you for joining this one. I've been looking forward to this one myself. You're both founders, both in EdTech, both in coding education. So I'm seeing a lot of similarities with my own role, with Simple, my own interests. I'm also trying to get into coding, trying to get a bit more technical myself, like building stuff over the weekends, my own side projects. So let's get just straight into it with the intros. Could you both tell who are you and what are you building?
Hey everyone, I'm Mark. Formerly I worked in quant finance for close to 10 years, and then I spent 5 or 6 years working in machine learning for an AI startup. And then last summer I decided that I wanted to start my EdTech company. It's been something I've been passionate about for a while. So I bootstrapped a company called Nodeledge, which is an online personalized learning platform, basically codifying the science of learning into software. We're focused on technical upskilling, so people wanting to learn to program, wanting to learn mathematics and machine learning, focus both on early stage career people as well as adult learners who are mid-career.
Great. Yeah, my name is Abhishek. So I was actually born in a very small town in India, and I had a very inspirational teacher when I was 8 years old, and then she just changed the trajectory of my life. Since then, I've had a very strong passion about the power of education, especially at an early age, how much impact it can have on somebody's life. Since then, I've worked in 2 Silicon Valley startups, both in AI tech space. Both are very successful. But I always had this passion for education, combining it with my background in technology. I also saw a gap in early childhood education, right? I do believe that technology and now AI is like the new fluency, it's like the new English, right? Everybody needs to speak it to be successful, to be able to communicate in the world that is going to be in the future. So that's why I started JetLearn around 3-4 years ago. The mission behind JetLearn is to empower kids, teenagers to start seeing technology as a force for good, be it coding, be it artificial intelligence, be it robotics, but how do we give a strong foundation at an early age and also inspire kids, teenagers to solve big problems that humankind faces, big problems and big opportunities also, like, climate, sustainability, space, etc. So that's what we do at JetLearn, inspire kids and teenagers to start seeing technology as a force for good.
I want to go straight into like the bigger vision. Something I think about a lot is the question, do people still have to learn how to code in 20 years? Like, do they still need to learn syntax? Will we just be talking to machines? I saw, like, I think it was last week that Lovable announced voice mode, where you could just speak to it and generate working prototypes. What is your take on that?
I probably have quite strong views, different from some of the mainstream here. I'm very much a believer that people still need to learn fundamentals and coding. Of course, there's always a level of abstraction beyond which it doesn't necessarily pay to go below. But I think ultimately it depends on your goals, right? I think a good analogy is to think about lifting a weight. If you're trying to lift a weight that's far too heavy for you, you're going to need assistance. If you're wanting to lift something that's just about getting the job done as fast as possible, then you can also use AI. But if you yourself want to get stronger, there's no shortcut. You need to put in the cognitive work. To do that, you need to develop the mental schemas that are the hallmarks of expertise. This is well studied in cognitive science and learning science, and there's no shortcut to that. I think there are many products out there today that would love for you to trade your potential for a dependency on their product. And I think that's essentially faking people out. I think that they don't need to do that. Ironically, I think this has created an opportunity for people who are serious about seeing the opportunity that AI presents and the way it can be used to modernize education. And I think that is a message ultimately of empowerment and of humans being able to leverage their unique abilities to be creative and create new knowledge. And I think, people shouldn't get fooled by that.
You mentioned a lot of like interesting things. I've also been reading your blogs. We're going into like the learning techniques a bit later. So hold that thought.
I'll try to use an analogy here. Okay. So, I am not good with a digital camera. I cannot use an SLR. I don't know what exposure is, what aperture is. But still, with my iPhone, I can take pretty decent pictures, right? That being said, if it's a very important function, like my friend getting married, I would still get a professional photographer, right? So in one way, these vibe coding tools, so to say, like Lovable, as you mentioned, they do democratize access just like an iPhone does. For a lot of situations, we can make progress, significant progress in many cases, right? With these vibe coding tools, just like with an iPhone. If I know a little bit more, I can probably take close to professional level pictures. But when it comes to really important things of stability, uptime, consistency, security, etc., I would still get somebody professional to do it, right? This is my view of learning to code. I think I want to extend what Mark said also. I think fundamentals are very important. When I learned coding, I was doing something in Fortran. Now nobody uses Fortran, right? It's Python right now. But the fundamental concept of coding, how I define it, is being able to instruct a machine to do certain things for you, right? So that still remains, right? Maybe you have access to 10 different tools, but which tool to use? Maybe there's a big problem, complex problem we want to solve. Which tool to use for which problem? How to kind of interpret the results, do some sanity check, make sure, they're within certain bounds, kind of get the solution together. I think that still remains very important, that analytical thinking and how to instruct that machine to do certain jobs for you. I think that will remain and probably will get more important because now everybody will be coding to some extent.
So is it correct that you think that the human edge will become communication with machines and very, very clear instructions, guidelines, all of that?
I think so, yes. So I think a lot of it about problem solving also. How do we kind of deconstruct a complex problem and then instruct the machines to kind of solve it? And also being able to understand what the machine is giving back. Is it making sense or not? So I think those things will become more and more important because I think like everybody will be coding now or needs to be coding in to some extent, right? Just like everybody using an iPhone camera.
You're saying like everyone will be coding now, but who needs it more right now? Or who is it more interesting for to build something for? Is it, I don't know, a 12-year-old future founder or even younger, dropping out of school? Or is it the 40-year-old marketeer or manager that suddenly knows how to build things?
I mean, I think what AI has done is it's given people who are willing to learn something the ability to go from 0 to 0.4, 0.5, like very quickly. Like if you are someone who wants to learn, some weird visualization language that you need for your website, and all the syntax is esoteric, you can today just ask an AI to create these stunning visualizations essentially for free. That is a democratization that applies across many fields. It's also, I think, it's essentially, to use a slightly geeky analogy, if AI is essentially an exponent on your skill level, like if your skill level is weak, you're going to compound down to 0 because you're going to get yourself into a mess. If your skill level is strong and you work on increasing it, AI will be a force multiplier for you. That comes with caveats in terms of how you engage with it. You still need to be the one putting in the work. But for me, this comes back to the previous paradigms I was talking about. If you want to get the job done, use tools. If you want to learn yourself, you have to make a change in long-term memory, so you have to do the cognitive work. But I see AI as just lowering barriers everywhere. How that diffuses across the economy into technology and products, I think, is just a multi-decade long question, as with any technological diffusion.
When it comes to the market and who we teach how to code, do you think the market will demand less or more entry-level programmers? My reasoning behind it is it the case that the current engineers increase their own productivity, or can larger companies upskill their whole workforce? Is there a gap happening there, you think?
So my take here is I've been using AI coding for the last few months now. I was a little bit unsure about how much to rely on it, and I think it can speed up certain aspects, particularly if you're a founder and you're doing many things. Like the increased velocity when you don't have human communication overheads is quite great, I think, for small teams. I think you're seeing that with a lot of products these days that can ship way faster. I think once the bottlenecks in a process become environmental, they're either communication overheads with other humans or they're just structural factors in your industry or company. Speeding up this AI capability does not help you there, basically. The friction just lies outside of the environment. Or sorry, it lies outside of the AI capability in the environment.
Abhishek, I'm also very interesting to hear what you're taking on this, because I've seen the videos that you post of, where kids explain what they built. You've even acquired a hackathon company, so you're seeing very incredible talent, I think.
I think to answer your question, the need for coding, right? I think it's interesting. One way I think, as Mark said, the good coders with tools like Cursor, etc., are becoming so much more productive. But the flip side of that is, which is a good thing probably, is that lot more opportunities are opening up. Just like internet opened up a whole new ecosystem of companies, or maybe a whole new economy. Similarly, the advance of AI, I think it needs to probably advance a little bit more, but it will open up a whole new economy, right? But we are seeing these trends even in other industries, right? For example, Tesla employs more software engineers for now than automobile engineers, right? So this technologification, this AIification of almost every industry will start happening more and more. So that probably does mean that it will require a lot more people who are AI fluent and who can use a lot of different tools, and some people who are really understand the fundamentals, who are actually then taking these tools to the next level. So I feel with democratization, actually the need for people who can, I would not call everybody a coder, but people who are fluent and can use tools will be more and more required, and actually that will cause advances in a lot of different industries. That's how I see it.
I agree with that. Can I just chime in with one more thought? One is a funny little thing on productivity is often when you talk to people, they will say they think their productivity has increased. But if you ask them about their team or within a company, no one I've spoke to, and I know dozens of software engineers, machine learning engineers, data scientists, no one has ever remarked that they've had a colleague who suddenly had become a 10x developer over the last 6 or 12 months, which tells you that, your self-improvement opinion and how you think you're being more productive doesn't necessarily translate into gains or reality in the business, right? No one has remarked that a colleague has become significantly better. I also do completely agree with Abhishek's point of view around the expanding set of needs that AI will create. I think it depends whether you view the world as a fixed set of problems that have to be solved and AI is just going to solve them, or you view it is an expanding pie, basically, where as we develop new technologies, there's an increasingly large number of things that we need to work on products to develop or problems to solve. And in that world, AI will both empower and also give humans more autonomy to solve those new problems that are created.
Then I want to go into like the current educational systems and how they're addressing everything that's shifting here. Do you think they're adapting to it in the right way or quickly enough?
I mean, I'm not so au fait with what's going on in schools. I've seen a lot of anecdotal reports in terms of basically ChatGPT usage plummeting during the summer, for example, because people are not using it at school anymore, and talk about how AI is destroying university learning, etc. There are also the rise of platforms such as, I don't know if you've seen a company called Clearly. Their whole manifesto is like cheat on everything. And I think it's like a fundamental mistake of what people get educated for, right? We don't get educated at university or school to solve new problems, right? We get educated to think well, to learn a base of knowledge that humanity has acquired so we can be the ones who advance the frontier of that. And I think it's a mistake to think that people don't still have to go through those cognitive processes. Of course, education itself has many structural problems, and I do think AI can play a large role in alleviating that. One thing it cannot do is think for a human itself. And that cognitive work always has to be done by the individual. So to some extent, AI is not doing the thinking for you. It's able to shape and create the environment so that optimal learning can potentially happen in the brain, but the work, cognitive work, still has to happen inside the human brain.
But how can you know, as a teacher, like you have your kids like constantly interacting with AI, but how can you know whether they're doing their own thinking?
Well, I mean, fundamentally, this is why testing was invented, right? Like testing was a way of creating a controlled environment where people can demonstrate that they can pull knowledge out of their brain to solve certain types of problems. That is still, an effective way of figuring out if learning has taken place or not. I think there's a distinction here which maybe we can get into or don't want to get into between performance and learning. Like you can perform in the moment with tools and technology. Doesn't mean you've necessarily learned anything. We've all managed to solve a task and then an hour later completely forgot what it was or not really known how it worked. That means no learning happened, right? So again, it's back to what are you trying to do? Are you trying to get the job done? Performance is fine. Are you trying to learn yourself? Well, the education system needs to still hold the ground, hold its line on keeping standards high and rigorous, so it's that humans demonstrate they have learnt something, because that is what's going to drive, I think, the knowledge creation in the economy in the decades, using AI as an empowering technology.
No, agree with almost everything. I think everything that you said. So, I work mostly with schools, school age kids and parents, right? So I think schools do a great job at certain things, right? They provide a great social atmosphere. They're really good at teaching things that have been taught for thousands of years, maths, languages, etc., right? But structurally, they're not suited to teach certain things which are moving very fast, right? Because to change the curriculum in a Dutch school or in a UK school, I work with in both countries a lot, right? It's a 5 to 10 year process to make even a small change in the school curriculum. And then there's a whole generation of teachers that need to be upskilled. So with a certain fast moving things around technology, especially around AI and even coding, schools are not suited. Structurally, they're not suited to teach these things, right? And that's where companies like JetLearn fill the gap. A couple of interesting things I've noted. One, actually, kids are using tools more than the teachers, right? I think there is how do I say this? They're a digital, the kids who are born last 10, 15 years, they're actually digital natives. They grew up using tablets, etc., which teachers have not, right? So actually, kids are more comfortable using ChatGPT for certain things than even teachers are, right? So they might be teaching the teachers in that sense. So, and now the genie is out of the box, we can't get it back, right? So I think it's a tool. Like every strong technology, there are some side effects which we would need to manage, but it's a tool which used right in the right hands with the right training, I think can really transform education. I think one of the things that you mentioned, a teacher is in a class with 25 to 40 students, right? How do they understand each students? Every person is unique. I work with a lot of twins. Each of the twins also are different, so each child is unique. So I think AI can really be let's call it a co-pilot for a teacher, if used rightly, to kind of do that last 20% which might be different for every child. Maybe in a school 80% is the same for every child, but the last 20% may be different for every child. It's very difficult for one teacher to do it, but a teacher with an AI co-pilot can probably do it very well, right? So I think these are some of the opportunities that are really opening up in the whole academic environment around personalization and so on.
Then I think it's a good time to go into like the changing role of the teacher. For example, I read about this school in the US called Alpha School, where they have barely any teachers. I don't think they even call them teachers, they call them guides. So they just supervise the kids interacting with the computer or with the AI. This is an extreme case, I think. I'm thinking that on one hand, AI can also maybe solve the teacher shortage in a lot of countries. I think schools are having a lot of trouble with budgeting for AI tools, getting that into the curriculum. What is your take on having teachers and kids use fast emerging tools like Lovable or Cursor, but also at the same time, it takes years to change a curriculum. But if you change it too late, all the other kids that have been using it in their own time at homes are already proficient in these tools? Is that becoming a problem?
I think Einstein said that compounding is the strongest force in the world. Somebody who's starting at age 8 versus age 18, and this 10 years they have had some compounded learning. I think that child is going to be or so much more productive at age 18 than somebody who's had exposure much later, right? So I think early childhood exposure is important. It should not replace foundational learning, social skills. I don't even think or believe that AI should replace teachers. I think there's this lot of knowledge, empathy, inspiration that teachers can bring in. But there is superpower in the hands of teachers. It can really magnify their impact. So I think, and that's probably true in my view for a lot of professions, like doctors using tools, lawyers using tools, but still that human touch, that final curation, and then being able to inspire and action is still very important, which I don't think AI can or even should do at this point.
And when it comes to assessing students, are the deliverables changing? I see it, for example, in my own university. I studied law and I studied business, where current students now have to also include their whole prompts and conversations with LLMs into the final report at the end as an annex. How is that changing in coding education, you think? What should students deliver to adequately assess whether they understand the subject?
Well, I mean, I think this comes down to, the simple question of what are you testing for? Like when you are testing, you are designing to, get a strong signal that some learning has taken place. So if you are trying to demonstrate that someone has managed to work with a new emerging technology to produce a given outcome, then I agree, asking students to disclose what technologies they used. I mean, this is like in a job interview, for example. I often would interview people for technical roles, and we would say, you can use whatever tools you would use in your day-to-day, because we want to see you in your natural environment. We're not going to try and artificially construct something that wouldn't replicate the environment you would face in a workplace. So if you're going to Google something, but just let us see what you're doing. And that kind of showing thinking processes, I think is valuable if it's serving the purpose of, the assessment, and the assessment is designed to measure the right outcomes. If you're looking for more closed book style, because let's say, I don't know, it's a setting in which people will not get access to technology, maybe they're, at the edge of either a battlefield or a medical setting or something else where they're having to make quick decisions on the fly, then we need to create testing environments that can simulate that reality for them, right? And make sure that they aren't relying on technology which is going to be absent at the time of performance. So yeah, I mean, just to fundamentally say, testing is probably the right answer, but testing needs to be in service of the rightly stated outcome and to replicate the right environment.
I have a perspective on this. I think with AI and emerging technologies, it's very difficult to test right now. And there are two reasons. One, take something like maths. It's being taught for 2,000, maybe even 10,000 years, right? While something like AI coding may be taught for few years, like 5 years at max. AI probably few months. It'll take a long time to develop a comprehensive testing methodology. And also, it's a bit tough to test on. Meaning, what am I going to test somebody on? Can they use Lovable or can they use Bolt? So the way that we are approaching this for now, I'm not saying it's the best, but given our experience with 10,000 plus kids and thousands of teachers, what we have seen work best for driving learning outcomes and engagement is project-based learning in these cases. Pick a problem that you're passionate about and try to solve it. Use whatever tools you want. You can code in Python, great, use that. If you want to use Lovable, Bolt, use that. And and then things will change. Lovable till like yesterday did not have voice mode. Now they have voice mode. Some other tool may come up 3 months later. But I think what is important is to not be afraid of these tools, embrace them, tinker with them, right? But I think that alignment with like getting excited to build something, I think that is very key, right? So kind of getting over that initial let's say, hump that, okay, I'm afraid to use these tools. I think that if we can inspire that and then get somebody over that initial hump that, okay, how do I use these tools? Then I think that's a good start at least.
And just to tie this back to, I think, one of the previous questions on education, I mean, I completely agree, Abhishek, in terms of getting people excited and getting them not afraid of the technology is important. And I think rather than thinking of how do we change our curriculum to build AI into every part of it, for example, one perhaps easier starting place would be, can we just create some space where we have 10% of our time where we can explore these new technologies, like almost adjacent to the curriculum where it's not infused all through it, and kind of get this like excitement and exploration going, which reduces a lot of the fear and breaks down the barriers that people have around this technology. I think that could be one way to tackle it.
Great point, Mark. I think, and that's exactly what some very forward-looking schools. I'm working with a large chain of schools in the UK. That's exactly what they have done. The government mandated curriculum does not require this, but we have created an enrichment hour where our kids can. These are like mid-teens. They can explore, they can tinker, they can engage, and then if they're interested in fashion or music, they can use AI tools to kind of show off their creativity, and that's a good way to get people engaged and at least get them started.
Yeah, and I think just to talk personally as well, as much as I like to push the like foundations and fundamentals point of view, right? That's not how I started or anyone started really. I started by wanting to get into machine learning and pick exciting problems, right? You almost need to eat your dessert first in some sense. You need to get the excitement, that fire going, and then that gives you the like orientation and enthusiasm to go back and think, okay, now I know where I need to invest and work from the ground up. But that's like a dual strategy, right? You're working forward structured in one sense, and you're having the playtime, the project-based, the building stuff as a complementary.
Let's talk about adaptive learning as well. You're both doing something in that sense. How are you applying that?
I think firstly, it starts with a fundamental belief in us, in our company and in me, that every child is different. Every child's potential is different. Even twins can have different interest and different potential. It is not our job or I think it's our job to help them realize their own potential, not to kind of fit them into certain boxes that, you get 10 out of 10, you get 9.5 out of 10. So that's a fundamental belief on which JetLearn, the company, is based on, right? So given that, the curriculum that we design, the way that we deliver, way that we assess or do project-based learning, do gamification, everything is targeted towards personalization, right? There are few different ways or aspects of personalization. One is the starting point where we do some simple assessments. One is the pace of learning. Everybody learns at a different pace. And, given that we teach online in very small groups, one-on-one, etc., we can really personalize the pace also, right? And then somebody might pick up one concept very fast, but they might have some areas of improvement. So we can focus more on the areas of improvement. And then also the final outcome, right? As I mentioned, somebody might be interested in music, somebody in fashion, somebody in sports. So if we can build or take them along with a journey that, okay, if you invest 6 months of your time in learning these tools, these foundations, you build something which is super interesting to you, there is a natural tendency to put in more effort. So I think these are the ways that we personalize. There's a lot of technology behind it, but I think the fundamental philosophy is guiding the technology. Mark, I've looked at your site also, so that looks awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with a lot of what you said. I'll just talk a little bit about how I think of it or how it works for Nodeledge. Let's just say what I think personalized or adaptive learning is not. I don't think it's like setting a lower bar for people, and I don't think it's delivering content in a different style to people. That kind of learning style is kind of debunked. What I do think it looks like is having a granular understanding of someone, what I call their knowledge fingerprint. We use knowledge graphs in the background, so I have this very fine-grained control of a map of what someone's knowledge is at a given point in time. It also looks like assessing what your prerequisite knowledge is, so what you're bringing to the table in terms of what you currently already understand or don't. This allows us to put people right at the edge of their knowledge when they start, so they can immediately start working on what's most productive for them. But I think what also varies a lot for people is the speed of learning. In a sense, you can think of intelligence as like an index on a learning rate, like how fast can someone learn? People still have to, put in the reps, put in the work to do that, but the speed at which a given student can do that just varies massively, mostly related to differences in working memory between individuals, which means some people need more practice for a given topic than other people. So that's another thing that you can personalize. So these things around like, a detailed knowledge fingerprint, the right starting point, and then the right amount of practice for each topic are kind of the key components of how I would think about personalization.
Oh, how many people are currently using it?
Just about 100 at the moment. I need to push the marketing quite a bit more. That's my goal.
101 now. Okay.
Did you
102.
I told it
I
more
tried
than
it as
that,
well. But the product is there, and the product looks good already, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's just me at the moment. So the development of the platform, the development of all the content, which I do myself by hand, there's like 1,500 questions in there now because I'm very big on active problem solving. Everything I do myself. So the base is there now, and now the growth strategy is something that needs to come in the next phase, basically.
Okay, so it's growth and maybe hiring people to help
I
you
think
do
the
so.
area I would love is to hire for content creation. That just takes so much time to create quality content. Like I do all the interactive Python exercises. I create interactive visualizations for like math concepts and stuff, and that just takes a lot of time. And I think giving that to someone else to do, hiring someone to do that would be a huge release for me.
Yeah, and how many people are on JetLearn? How many students, and also how many teachers?
So, see, we work with kids and teenagers. We do use a lot of AI to teach, to personalize, but there's also a lot of element of live interaction. So till now at JetLearn, we have taught around, I would say, 10,000 learners in different settings, into one-to-one group settings, in schools, in different workshops, right? And we have around 250, 300 trained mentors who also work with us to deliver a lot of these aspects. Mostly in the UK, Netherlands, Ireland, but we have a long tail of customers in like 60 countries.
So we talked a lot about the changing role of teachers. Does it mean that in the upcoming years you can scale the number of students faster than the number of teachers that you need for that?
I think, yes. I think there is a different ways to look at it, right? I personally would not replace a teacher, just like I would not replace my doctor or lawyer with AI, right? But there are different ways to scale it. Half the session might be done by an AI and the other half by a teacher, or alternate classes, right? So we have to do a lot of experimentation. What we don't want to compromise on is on two things, right? One is engagement. Everybody who comes to a session should be excited. And the second is learning outcomes. So given those two are as constants, how can we introduce more AI, more automation, more tools like Symbol also, right, to kind of create content without compromising on these two things, engagement and learning outcomes? I think that's the user experience that is an area of opportunity for us to scale more with less. It's tough to find computer science teachers who can teach kids, right, and at the right price point also. So I think that's an opportunity for us. We've solved it for now. We can grow 10x from where we are with this model, but to grow 100x, the way I see it, there are 1.5 billion kids in the world right now who need to be AI fluent. So that's where we also need to start. We are already using, but there's an opportunity for us to use more and more AI to kind of scale it without compromising on engagement and learning outcomes.
We're getting to the end of it, so I want to finish off with one more question. To people that want to start learning to code, where should they start? And also maybe what skills should they focus on?
I mean, obviously, I think they should start start with Nodeledge. I mean, if you want to learn Python, that is to some extent. I think just being platform agnostic for a second. I think like it doesn't matter to some extent where you start, because the things that are going to keep you on track are keeping your motivation alive. To do that, you need achievement. It's actually achievement that leads to motivation. So you want to find a platform or find some resource that can give you small wins, clear feedback, so you feel like you're making small steps forward every day. Apart from that, the biggest bottleneck I see to people learning to code is often just the human aspects of, one, managing their emotions when they're learning something new. Often I think of learning something new as just an exercise in being able to handle being confused for a prolonged period of time. And also building habits, right? Like the power of, as Abhishek said, the power of compounding daily habits is very powerful. Your future person is essentially like your compounded daily habits, like projected forwards. And so these these personal aspects are almost as important as the resource you choose. If you choose any resource and engage with it in this way and are willing to drop it if it's not leading you to achievement, then you'll be okay. I would also just advocate for people, especially if they're getting started, to make sure it's something that's very interactive and active problem solving driven. Like you want that very fast feedback loop, especially when programming, between I'm just learned something, I can now apply it. There's no point watching dozens of hours of videos and then trying to sit down to write some code. You're just not going to be able to, you're going to freeze. You're not going to be able to write it. Many students had that problem in the past.
Nice. Well, I'm getting started with Nodeledge for sure.
Well, keen to hear how you find it. Let me know.
I would probably do two things right now. If somebody has no coding knowledge at all and wants to get started, I would probably start two things. There's a platform by MIT, which is for kids, but it's a very good starting point, very visual. Develop a simple game on a platform called MIT Scratch. Even Harvard, when they teach humanities students about technology, they start with that, right? It's super simple, but you understand the basic concepts of what is a loop, what is a conditional, what is variable, what is very simple stuff. But it's fun, it's very visual, you get feedback fast, and you'll build a simple game. I think that's a very good starting point for anybody. And then they can get started on Python, etc. The second thing I would probably do right now is also build a simple tool on ChatGPT. Whatever excites one. I've personally built something for tracking my exercise and nutrition, right? Just in a visual way. It gives me feedback on a daily, weekly basis. These are the days I did well. These are days I kind of veered off my constraints. But anything that if somebody's excited about, again, music, whatever, right? Build a simple tool on ChatGPT. You can even use ChatGPT to ask how to prompt, etc., etc. But I think that building something that is a little bit substantial will give enough confidence on let's say how to use prompts for different things and so on. So I would start on these two things at the same time.
Thanks a lot to both of you. I greatly enjoyed it myself. Like this is in particular an episode that I look forward to recording. It's always nice to speak to like founders and people building something in the EdTech space. It's hard, but I can see with both of you that you're extremely ambitious and passionate about what you're doing. So thanks a lot for this.
Yeah, thanks Lisa for inviting. Thanks Mark.
Yeah, thank you for your